Easy, how are we?
Shawnee, we are through week one of marathon training.
You're back on the road again. How'd you get on?
It's better. It's definitely, it's everything I said to everyone. You're remembering all the paces you used to run at. And yeah, but it is good. It's nice to have the pressure of the others training
What do
because
you
it's
mean?
making me want to train. Well, you kind of can't be saying, "Oh, I'm bringing this all to do a marathon," and then not train yourself. So it's an extra kick in the hole to get out there. And look, we're just enjoying it now and enjoying that journey, enjoying the hard bits because there's a lot of mental battles going on now, even over shorter distance. And I'm going to have this all the way through, which is great because come the day, it's going to be really good. And anyone who's done a marathon knows that you're going to have mental battles. So am I annoyed I'm having them over the 6K with a bit of tempo? Yes.
Hmm.
But is it going to pay dividends then when we get to the other side? Yeah, absolutely. We'll have built up that little bit of resilience and mental kind of confidence that you can survive that little bit of push and a little bit of hardship. But yeah, it's so far so good for me.
But you've been there before though as well. I think it happens to everyone. Like fitness is rented. You get up at that certain stage, and then like I people now getting back into the runs after a couple of weeks after Dublin Marathon are probably running the pace going, how do I maintain X pace for the entire marathon when I'm only getting back running now and I get nowhere close to like it just it's man, running is mental. I found out that the hard way today again. Running is just fucking it's a mental game. It's a mental game.
What broke you? Come on, you seem who hurt you,
5K.
Sean? Who hurt you? The 5K
5K.
hurt
The
you again, did it?
5K hurt me. So here's the thing with a 5K, right? Here's my because we're doing this podcast nearly 5 years. And I think the one goal I have stressed over and over and over again on the 5K, there is something like I hit the 100 mile goal during May and I was thrilled with it. And a couple of weeks before that, I raced like I loved elevation, but it really annoyed me because I felt like I was nowhere near that 100 mile goal. And then I just randomly, I was like, I have to sign up for this race down in Wex for 24 hour. I just have to do it. Have to like just go for this properly, flat course, see how I get on. 24 hours, time the clock. But with a 5K now, and I just every time I do a 5K, it is either sub 20 or it's nothing. Like getting 20:30, getting 21, getting 21:30 or 22, or today 22:08 as we record this podcast on a Saturday evening means nothing to me. It's shit. It to me personally, I know I'm not saying it's a shit time for like people going for that time. It's just personally, it is meaningless. So every time I get to a 5K race, and I knew today it wasn't there. I knew it was. I was telling people exactly what's going to happen and what happened. I start the race and I go, well, let's see where I'm at. So I'll
Oh
take off the
no.
first. Every time. Now, I took off the start and I go around the corner and I thought I was doing a 4 minute kilometer pace. I looked down my watch and it said 3:45. I literally
Uh-oh.
said out loud, 3:45. Ah, bollocks. And I knew. And I knew it wasn't there. I didn't get a good warm up in. The head wasn't in it. And a kilometer and a half into it, I was running alongside Roisin. I looked at the watch. I was like, that can't be right. Because I felt like I was trying to go off feel. And I was like, I'm running somewhere around a 4:05. It felt like that. I looked at her, I looked again. And I turned to Roisin and go, are you running the 4:35 right now? And she's like, yeah. And it absolutely broke me. I checked out. I was done. I'm like, how am I supposed to run 4 sub-minute kilometers when I'm on a flat? There's no wind at this stage, and I'm running 4:35. And I was done. And I mentally just checked out. And then I ended up dropping. I think I did a 4:05 for the first kilometer. I knew it was a bad way. The heart rate was 160 plus. And like straight away, all these mental battles, maybe I could have got it back a little bit. Now, I wasn't saying is it mentally there, I'm sub 20. I'm not that fit yet. But it's just, I'm like, here we go again, the exact same fucking race. And I've done it too many times now. Like, even talking on the podcast, I'm like, you could probably listen to episode, 196 where I talk about a 5K and I have the same story, or episode 58 and I have the same story. It's just really annoying me so much that like, when I finished, I was like, right, I felt like getting sick again. I was like, this just feels like absolute crap. I'm like, I need to push towards a 5K PB. I need this sub 20. I just want to get this monkey off my fucking back. And then I've Hyrox in 3 weeks' time. So, so later on that day, I'm back to the gym and I'm doing my first Hyrox simulation. So now it's not exact same as the Hyrox simulation. I still at the gym as much as I can. Roisin again fucking dragged me through the fucking thing because I would not have done this one alone. I was just miserable. Like it's one thing running 5 minute kilometer paces. It's one thing trying to do that after sled pushing 150 plus kilo, 50 meters, and then like
Ugh.
and like mistakes I've heard in the podcast again, like Sean Noble talking a couple weeks on the podcast, being like 1,000 meter ski, break it up between 400 and 600, and then like slow it down, build it back up again. And but when you're doing, you're like, I'm on a 158 per 500 meter, and I feel good. So I keep
No.
going. 4 minute plus. I'm
No.
like, I'm grand. I get back out and I'm like, oh, I'm not so grand. So I had it tracked on my watch and I could see the splits go from like, now I did a little over kilometer to try and go for rock zones and I'm like just drop it. And I ended up doing like a 126.50 and just almost keeling over and dying. So my day was humbling. And at this stage, I'm taking any and all questions off you, sir.
Nah, but look, it's all different. And I suppose those who have practiced in the shorter game, and I say that in terms of the 5K, 10Ks, it's a lot easier when they've practiced it, they've done it so often. Myself and yourself kind of started running with marathons
Yeah.
and then decided actually, let's try run fast. So it's just not as enjoyable. For
No.
me, it's definitely not as enjoyable. Once I hit that 1940, I was like, done. Never again will I do this. Because I tried 3 or 4 times over the space of that 6 weeks back when we started this podcast, and it was like 20:04, 20:05. And the
Mm.
day I actually got it, I couldn't move for about a half hour. I just lay on the ground. But yeah, but it is, I get what you're saying. To just break that sub 20, what it is, I don't know. But I suppose, in fairness to you, you've done a lot of varied events in terms of endurance, and probably haven't done a block of, I'm going to focus on just 5K PB over the next 6 weeks. And I'd say if you did, and we've had a lot of great coaches on this, I'd say if you did, I reckon you'd do it. If you gave it just nothing else, none of this Hyrox, no marathon training, and just said, for the next 6 to 8 weeks, I'm gonna try and do it. And
So
I'd say you'd give it a good go.
I need to run and train lead up to Hyrox. I've got it in 3 weeks' time. But all my running training, as I look, Hyrox is going to be one of those events where it's going to be like the marathon. You do one, you set a benchmark for the other one. And at this stage, I'm like, I'm just going to set a benchmark, see where I'm at. And then my next one, I'll set a goal. I think what like we've said before, like the marathon, you've probably talked to people now doing the marathon for Barcelona next year with a trip. It's like, if it's your first, don't worry about time. Don't do what we did. Look at what the average person does a marathon in, and guys was 4 hours, and be like, try and beat the average the first time. It's just because you don't know what your body's going to be like in that last 10K. It is the unknown. See what it is, and that's going to be the same with Hyrox. Trying to do burpee broad jumps for 80 meters and then trying to run again is absolutely horrific after doing sleds. And I have no idea what my body's going to be like in that day. So I'm just going to go out, enjoy it, see what happens. But my running, these next 6 weeks is to get faster. And then I have signed up to a 5K race on New Year's. Oh man, I was that annoyed driving home. I was like, on New Year's Day, there's a Tom Brennan 5K in Memorial. I've never done it before, but seemingly it's 2 loops and it's a flat course. So, and I was like, I just keep this to myself. I'm like, nah, I run a podcast. I can't be doing that. Even though today when I was struggling in Hyrox, I was like, I should have just kept this to myself. Don't mention it on the podcast. But I'm going for it that day.
What date is it on?
1st of January. I'm starting the year. I can't. For the last 3 years, I've had different running goals, and I've hit them all except the one I keep putting on the feckin' list, and that's a sub 25K. This year,
Okay,
I
so
had
yeah,
two
look,
goals. I had two goals this year. It was the
jeez.
100 mile in 24 hours, and it was sub 5K. And this, oh man, it's annoying me. I kind of wish we recorded this podcast on a Sunday, so I wouldn't be as aggro talking about it right now.
But you're doing
But it's
it.
annoying me.
You're doing it on New Year's Day.
New Year's Day, 9:30 in the
And
morning.
you're still a failure. You didn't do it this year. But
Oh, I
anyway,
know
talking about
that.
talking about people who aren't failures. Our next guest is absolutely phenomenal.
Absolutely phenomenal. And here, I met her for the first time,
Actually,
actually.
sorry, my mom gave out to me.
Why?
She said I give you too much of a hard time on a podcast, and I just did it again. I just did it again. So, ma'am, I'm sorry, but things are not going to change. Sean is a failure this year.
Oh, Sean deserves it on this one, but who doesn't deserve it is actually when I was down in Hyrox last week. After we recorded the intro, I went back in and see a few more people doing it, and one of the people I saw was the first time I met this person in person, which is our next guest of the podcast, Ashling Wyer, and she was doing doubles. You'll hear her talk about it in the podcast, doing doubles for the first time. She got on phenomenally. Her splits were sub 4 minute splits. She did it doubles. I think she was like 29th or something overall out of like 800 plus people in doubles. An hour, 4 minutes, and like 28 seconds or something she did it in. Absolutely class. But Hyrox is not her sport. Ironman is.
Yeah, she is into triathlon and is out of Nice Triathlon Club. What a phenomenal athlete. Recently onto the scene and pushing and doing so well. And I suppose Hyrox, as we've talked about in other episodes, and it is all the range, so we are talking about it, is an endurance sport and it suits endurance athletes. And I suppose it's definitely that cross training element. So what that does for her triathlon, as you're going to hear, which is amazing, is yet to be seen and how it helps. But a person who's really fascinated with the sport, loves sport, and it just epitomizes what it is to just take part and be humble. And it's a phenomenal listen from a phenomenal athlete. And once again, we have front row seats to another fantastic episode.
And with that said, it's this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. Let's go. Our next guest on the Any Given Run Day podcast has a seriously impressive triathlon record. She was the AG Cork Ironman winner in 2022, the 2023 AG Sprint Distance Champion, double-digit podiums in 2024, including winner of the Lost Sheep and Tri-Limits Tyrone. And in September of this year, she was the overall winner of Ironman Italy. Ashling Wyer, welcome to this week's episode of the Any Given Day podcast. How are you getting on?
Oh, thanks so much. You've done some homework there anyway. Thank you. That's a lovely intro.
I do try.
The only thing he doesn't do for homework is learn how to swim. You should see, you're introducing the top triathlete and you still need armbands. You're a disgrace to this podcast.
Do you know what? The kids are not allowed to train with armbands anymore. Actually, you can get through all your accomplishments in a second. But I've heard when kids go to learn swimming, they're not allowed to use armbands. They're just thrown straight into the pool like.
Yeah, that's the best way. Absolutely.
Ashling, we need to get Sean. We need to get him down. Do you know what? We're kind of hoping you do sing.
I've actually got swimming lessons near, if I'm not mistaken. Do you train out in Clyde Edger sometimes?
I do.
Yeah, I did a couple of swimming lessons there and I can't swim afterwards. That's on me, not them. That's on me. But it is a nice spot to attempt to swim.
Ashling, you are very, very welcome onto the podcast. You have such an impressive accolade. And for those who don't know, it's so impressive in terms of a national standard and an international standard. Where we start with everyone on this podcast is, how did you get into triathlon?
Oh, it's actually not that long ago. My mum got me into it in 2019. So kind of like most of us, we kind of went off the rail a bit in college. And I was kind of doing a bit, but not really moving that much. I had a pretty bad fall out hiking in 2018 and I wasn't really doing a whole pile. So mum was off there. Her famous saying is that she's training for life. She's always doing something no matter what. She pretty much do a triathlon every day and put everyone to shame. So I kind of took inspiration from her and I got a bike in 2019 and it kind of went from there. I joined my local triathlon club, which is Nice Tri Club. And just everybody made me felt at home and just ease. No matter how competitive you are, you just got stuck in. And yeah, kind of just went from there.
So I got my first bike in 2019 and we're two very different people, actually. So is the difference, like obviously with different things, I'll be honest, it's scary to join a club. No matter who you are, it's scary to get involved. How was it for you to get involved with a club on your first day? Like Nice Tri, and there's many great triathlon clubs around the country, but yours obviously is Nice. How scary was it? Was it daunting? How do you get involved? How do you take that first step from falling on a hike to falling onto a bike with your local triathlon club?
Yeah, I can completely understand that. And I wouldn't be the most social human being. So I am a solicitor, and I have a limited period of time where limited time in my day where I can kind of delve into something. So I kind of wanted something to kind of meet people in my local area and train outside and get myself out of the office. So triathlon was something that was introduced to me, like I said, from my mum. And yeah, I can completely understand that it is a bit daunting to be introduced to new people. It's a scary sport. There's 3 disciplines to train for. It's not just as easy as throwing on a pair of trainers and getting out the door. There is a lot of equipment, and you can be speaking to the most competitive of people, and they can be telling you all these scary stories. And I know you've done an Ironman yourself, Eric. So I guess joining a club you can be introduced to a variety of different people. There can be people there that they're just happy to just train about their schedule, and there wouldn't be that much of a competitive drive. Or there could be people that, like me now, would be competing at an international level and hoping to go on and succeed. So it's really what you put into it. On the club, there's only 100, maybe 150 people in our club, so it wouldn't be that daunting. In terms of, some of the big run clubs up in Dublin, there could be thousands of people. So if maybe in your local area, there could be a little bit something that could be a taste for everybody.
And it is something you mentioned in terms of equipment and what people don't realize. And it's great to have athletes like you come on, but remembering you only started in 2019, and people say that running is a free sport. And then you start running and you realize how expensive it is. Then you add in swimming and cycling, and you realize probably how important the club is to get you up and running, to beg, borrow, and steal just to get you towards your first race. You obviously had your mom who's gonna throw kit and equipment at you, even if it fits or doesn't fit. It's all about just participating for your first couple, just to try it out. Isn't that important?
Yeah, you can get things secondhand pretty easily on adverts and the rest, but then you always want the next best thing, and what's the next bike? And all of a sudden you have a 10 grand bike and a 5 grand car, so it doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, it does.
What was that point, Aisling, where you decided the bike needed to be worth more than the car? Was there a race that came up that you felt like you did well in, or was there a moment when you were at the Tri Club was like, I'm going to be here a while now, I'm going to start building up my races? Was there a particular point there?
Well, I guess you can get away with blaming the legs for a certain amount of time, and then you start to blame your equipment. And then when you can't blame your equipment anymore, you have to go back to blaming the legs. So
Eric blames the watch then, and he needs a dearer watch as well. I've heard this conversation before.
We are a cut from the same cloth. It's always the equipment. Aisling, it's always the equipment.
I guess like I said, I joined in 2019. I got myself, so Nace Triathlon, they actually have a high performance team where they select 6 members of the club, and they give specialized training plans to them. So I got matched up with Coach Barry Smith in the training club. And so I've been paired with him for the past 2 years. I kind of had a breakthrough race in 2022 where I got my first overall podium. And from then, 2023 and obviously 2024 has been just a dream year. But just getting that coaching and I guess specific training behind you, you kind of then want to go on and get the fancy bike and the fancy fast shoes and see where you can go, and just you want to get to the start line and not be able to blame anything.
But obviously to get onto high performance, to be working with the likes of Barry and Connor, who are involved in ACE, and both excellent athletes in their own right and fantastic coaches with a lot of experience, you obviously had to show a lot of potential. Did triathlon come easy to you? Was there a part of you, for example, myself and Sean, we could drown, we could swim, we could float, we could sink. On any given swim day, we could have a good day or a bad day. But what was it like for you? Was there any element that really scared you about it, getting into it, or did it just come natural to you?
So growing up, just by way of background, my dad was a jockey. My mum had always done sport. My brother owns his own gym. So we were always kind of a sporty family. I wouldn't say I was overly special in anything, but I certainly did have that background. I swam when I was young. I did community games and the rest. But again, I was the one showing up to the running races, and they'd be picking up the cones after me. So I wasn't talented by any means, but when I got into it, and the more, again, with my coach, I just put in the hours and put in the work. But no, I didn't come from, I wouldn't say I was particularly talented. I was just disciplined and committed and passionate about the sport, I guess. And we all have the same 24 hours a day. I maybe just dedicated a little bit more than some, and thankfully that has paid off.
I'm looking here, Aisling. I'm trying to do the maths with when stuff reopened after COVID and stuff like that. Was Ironman Cork, was that your first Ironman?
Yeah, so that was my first half distance in 2022. So that was an amazing day, actually. I ended up winning my age group, and I think I was fifth overall. I just enjoyed the whole thing. I wasn't going for any particular time. I was just seeing what it was like and just challenging myself, and I just fell in love. And then 2 weeks later was a very famous race in Kerry. It's the Lost Sheep race.
The Lost Sheep, yeah. It's a tough one.
It's
arguably, in fairness to it, and it is ranked, I think it's like in the top 5, and it's not the full half distance, but it's ranked as like one of the most difficult in Europe.
Really? That's super. Well, I don't agree. The elevation is crazy. It nearly killed me this year doing it. God, that was a hard day. But it is definitely a bucket list race. If you ever get the opportunity to go down, the atmosphere is crazy. Now, there's nothing like the Ironman atmosphere with the crazy crowds, especially down in Youghal. Obviously, it's a shame that that's not going ahead, given what happened this year, or last year, sorry. But it is just very special down in Kerry, and it's a very cool event.
At what stage during this race, Aisling, were you like, actually, I'm in contention here? Because it's your first race, and just like I said, the I've only seen the start. I've never actually been in Ironman, obviously, but the start of it and seeing Eric do it, and like the atmosphere taking over and starting in different waves and stuff like that. Like it's a rolling. I'm assuming it's like different stage starts, like it was what I saw Eric do. At what point when you're in that swim, cycle, run, you're like, there's not a lot of females around me here. I actually might be very high placed up. Or was your thought process through it just finished? Did you have an idea beforehand based on your numbers that you could AG finish?
Was this down in Cork?
Down in Cork, yeah, for the Ironman.
Oh, I had no idea. No, I was just loving it. Completely oblivious. Maybe that's the best way. God, if I could go back to that mindset and just, because sometimes when you get kind of better and you start to get on the overall podiums, you have this pressure on yourself, and it naturally increases the more you move up the ranks. So even if I could go back to those innocent days where you're just going out and just trying your best, there's a lot to be said for it, and you don't really get days like that anymore, unfortunately. But it's fun in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's something. Like, I suppose if you get asked now about, like, if you're going to Ironman Italy like a couple of months ago, we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But it's like, well, how did you get on? Did you win? Did you come close to winning? Did you win your AG group or whatever it is? Whereas when you did Cork, it was like, did you finish? You're like, yeah, I finished. I was like, brilliant. And people probably haven't even asked you the follow-up question. Well, I've never been asked a question at all during a race. Did you win the race? That's just the thing. How dare you ask me that on my first Ironman race? Did I win the thing? But had someone asked you that, yeah, you would have came first in your AG. That's just bananas.
I know, and I'm actually always conscious of when I'm asking people now after races, not how you did, or just did you have fun, did you enjoy it? Because I know what that's like myself, when inherently people just ask you, oh, how did you do, or did you win? Because they're just used to seeing you now, and it's, if you have a bad day, that can hurt.
Yeah, well, whenever me and Sean are involved, it's usually a bad day, but we're always smiling at the end. Aisling, a lot of guests we've had on have been phenomenal talents, and like you, a phenomenal talent, but a lot of them have been a phenomenal talent from a younger age and have worked through the education system. Their identity became runners, swimmers, cyclists, and they fell out of love in college. And some may fall away from the sport totally, some may stay involved. You picking it up in 2019 as more mature in knowing what you want. You were a solicitor, you're training for other things. Do you find when you pick up a sport at this age, okay, and ability is there as well, obviously, is it easier then to keep that kind of motivation or that passion when you find something, when you move away from, let's call it, the bullshit that's involved in school and all the other bits and pieces? Is it easy now that you have a career and you found this? Is it easy to keep that motivation and to really thrive in it with no distractions?
My famous saying is discipline over motivation. So it kind of is just part of me now. It's part of who I am. Some people may find that crazy, but I just absolutely love it. So it's like I'm training with people who are now my best friends. So my social circle is now surrounded by athletes and people that have a similar crazy mindset to me. So again, I don't find it hard. And I know some people do and they struggle to kind of fit it in, or I don't have kids at the moment, so my priorities are a little bit different. I could be a little bit more selfish with my time, and I am grateful for that. Now is the time for me to just delve in and see how far I can push myself, and that's exciting. So no, I don't. I find it pretty easy, thankfully.
In 2023, you were second overall in the Triathlon National Series. As someone who knows very little about that, how many races that involved? That seems like something you have to be consistent with throughout the year. I'm assuming it's like a leaderboard, like a league kind of thing. Is that the way it works?
Exactly, it's a league. So your best four are essentially selected. You have to do one sprint, one Olympic, and the other two races can be made up of whatever race distance. Now, some races naturally have better points than others, so it's kind of strategy as well, which I don't enjoy. This year, again, I've ranked second as well, and I've done across the year, not just the national series, but I've done 11 races, and I'm very grateful that I've been on 11 overall podiums. So it's just been a crazy journey the past 2 years. And again, my coach Barry Smith has had a lot to do with that, and we're just working really well together. So it's exciting where we can go.
When you're at that level, and just for someone listening to this and trying to get into triathlons and stuff like that, just out of curiosity, you've obviously had to travel the country for 11 podiums. They're not all going to be in Nice. Is there any particular ones you're like, this is a real good course that I'd recommend people to do? That's oh, actually, this is a real cool race. Or is there something like the Lost Sheep Part 2 where you're like, there is so much elevation in this kind of race, I don't want to go anywhere near that race ever again?
A really good one to just introduce yourself is one you probably heard about it, High. So Triathletes. They have a variety of different distances. So there's anything from Triathletes, which is the smallest distance you can get, and it's just it's huge for God. Even for me back in the day, it was a great event. But there's a 250-meter swim. I think it's a 20k bike and a 4k run. So it's a great introduction, and then you can work your way up from there. I think you can go up to a half Ironman at the same event. So that's a great one, and it is local as well. Lost Sheep again is a bucket list, but there are there's loads of, the triathlon community is just filled with fun people. There's loads of great events. I did try Tyrone this year, which was another great one. It's just the atmosphere is just crazy. So there's a lot, and the Triathlon Ireland have a race calendar. They're packed from anywhere across the country just to get yourself started. So just join again your local tri club and take it from there.
And it is a lot. When you look at the triathlon on Triathlon Ireland's website, you can see the event calendar for the year, and there are so many great events popping up that, like you said, strategy is involved, because on the same weekend you could have two fantastic races on two different ends of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And you still manage to be racing the best every weekend, because there's just the highest caliber out there. So no matter where you are, you'll always be looking across your world's worst enemy, going, how are you? I'm trying to avoid you. Oh, no.
Ashton, you trained for all these races, and just before I get into 2024 and 11 podiums, obviously you did a lot in 2023 to come second overall in the national series. Where did you find time to train for the Dublin Marathon?
Oh, you'll always find time for Dublin Marathon.
So 23 is not the one and only.
I'm actually going for Valencia this year. My new little lifelong dream was to try and take a different one off each year. So it started in Dublin, and we'll see where it gets me. So Valencia is meant to be cool. It's meant to be flat and fast. So we'll see.
And when you did Dublin, did you get the urge to go, I could, because you had a great time, like 3 hours 20 for your first marathon is unbelievable. Something myself and Eric really wish we get anywhere near that an hour 40 in between, that would have been nice. But anyway, did you ever think, like, when you finished that race, oh, I could get more into this? Maybe if I just did half a year triathlons and concentrate more on marathons, that could be down to sub 3 or a little bit more. Or is it just, this is just a great day out to cap off the year when the triathlon season, I'm assuming, the marathons is definitely over at that stage?
Yeah, it'd be way too cold for us to shove us in the sea then. You know what? I did it really to improve my running. And I love running. There's something so easy about it. You can just put on your pair of runners and go running out the door, just run with friends. It's just great. But I like having the balance of all three and to kind of keep me, injury free, first of all. If I was to run every day, I would be broken in a wheelchair probably. My hips aren't made for it. But yeah, no, I enjoy the three disciplines just for something different. But again, I love coming up to the mountain. Like, there was nothing compared. I'm so jealous of you now running Dublin. I know you're running Dublin, Sean. So that would be great. The atmosphere will be there. I'll be there with handing you jellies if you need them.
Jellies, Lucozades, more gels, pack of Jaffa cakes, the works.
Ashley, we're going to move on, I suppose. Again, we're keeping that big event that we want to find out so much more about, Italy. But your stories today, one said, has anyone done Base Camp Everest? And the other was getting back into Hyrox. Right, so we need to just, what sport are you going to embarrass us in next? Like, where's the limit here?
I know. I'm actually, my coach was so angry when I got a ticket to Hyrox Dublin because it's 2 weeks before. Yeah, seemed like a great idea at the time. No, it's just a bit of fun, and I couldn't resist. I've heard so many. It was actually your podcast as well, talking about the Hyrox, and I just was like, okay, that sounds really, really cool. Just something different in the winter. Why not?
Hyrox, as much as Coach Barry's going to hate to hear this, Hyrox is built for triathletes and multidisciplined athletes and endurance. So
I agree.
what is your expectation? Because we've touched on it, I just want to ask, now that the season is coming towards an end, what kind of training are you going to do? One, okay, we know you can run. You'll survive the 8 kilometers. You've never raced it with the other events in between. What kind of strategies are you thinking of to survive the event? Now, the last time you went to survive an event, you topped the 8 report. So I'm going to ask again, while you're enjoying yourself, doing Hyrox in Dublin, getting the podium, what way are you going to train for that over the next couple of weeks?
Have you got sore, aching muscles? Then you need to ask for the UltraPure Laboratories Muscle Recovery Range in your local pharmacy or health store. Trusted by athletes and tried and tested by ourselves, this great value and guarantee Irish range includes Epsom salt gels with arnica, perfect if you have no time or access to a bath.
The Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream, ideal for targeted heat support.
You just need to be careful where you put it, Sean, not for the faint-hearted. And a favourite of ours, the Magnesium Oil Spray, brilliant for restless legs and muscle cramps.
Ice cold menthol gel with arnica, excellent for cooling and soothing tired feet and muscles.
And as we're talking to marathon runners and athletes, the relaxing essential oil muscle spray with 9 essential oils plus arnica, a gem of a product, and most importantly, vegan too.
For bumps and bruises, ask for UltraPure Arnica Cream. And last but not least, their magnesium-rich Epsom salts. We go through buckets of these. You just can't beat an UltraPure Epsom salts bath.
And it's the first wash you've had in years, Sean, bath or shower. So UltraPure, thanks so much for helping us out with that one. UltraPure Laboratories is an Irish-owned and award-winning family business based in County Mayo. Shop the UltraPure Muscle Recovery range in-store or online from pharmacies and health stores. Find out more at ultrapurelabs.ie. And by listening to this advert, you have helped this podcast and you are supporting Irish businesses. So let's get back to this week's episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast.
God, I have no idea. Do you have any top tips for me?
You're going to have to refer to our previous 2 episodes.
No, not brave enough to give tips in that one.
But is it something that it's just, I know the events, I'm just going to show up and enjoy it. I'm just going to see what it's like, see how it hurts me. And is that the plan?
Yeah, there's a couple of people in my gym that have a bit of experience. They're kind of giving me a few tips and tricks. I'm doing the mixed doubles, if that makes it any easier.
Okay.
Athlete.
Yeah, very good.
We both have our strengths and weaknesses and we're going to lean on each other. So it'd be good fun. again, I think we'll be humbled greatly by seeing all these pros. My partner seems to think we'll do very well, but I'm not too sure.
It's an interesting one, the mixed doubles, because for the mixed doubles, you have to do the guys' weights on like the sled and the wall ball. So someone
The
recently
wall balls, I tried them today. They are way harder than they look.
Yeah, I'm trying to explain in the podcast. We had to do two guests on before, Tom and Sean Noble, about it. I was like, if you haven't done wall balls, it's like for you now it's a 6 kilo ball instead of a 4. And it's like, it's only an extra 2 kilo, but that's a huge jump. Like, it's just like the shoulders, the cardio, everything just kind of goes as near the end of it. But not to put you off it, but I'm sure you do great today. But it's doubles. You could just tag out and then your partner can come in and they do most of it. Just like you just take over the running and maybe some of the more cardio based things that you're stronger at.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll lean on each other. We're both fierce competitive. So I think we'll be like, I'll be hogging the ball. I'll be like, I can do better.
We never would have guessed that from how this podcast has gone so far. Aisling, you're trying everything. Dare I ask about base camp before we talk about Italy? Are you going to go for base camp? Is that something that's on your list?
Yeah, I think it's just now is the time that I love to travel, and just that would be just a bucket list trip. So yeah, again, just adventure, making memories.
Aisling searching what's the record to get from the bottom up to base. And she'll do it with a smile on her face. But it is good, and obviously we've got to know from you there is a competitive side, and competition is great because iron sharpens iron. As you've said, through the club, you've got good coaches. When you're showing up to the start line for a swim, you're looking across at competitors and going, "Oh no, there they are," and they're equally going, "Oh no, here's Aisling." But at what point then, when we're moving into the Ironman, are you like, okay, this is the big one, Italy? We've done a lot of preparation for this. We're going abroad. We've spent a lot of money. Can you talk us through the preparation and what led to the trip to Italy?
So I was hunting a World Championship slot. So in next year, it's in Marbella. So this year, the World Championships is held in New Zealand, and that is obviously going to be a very expensive trip for those who are lucky enough to be able to take part over there. But when it was in Europe, I just really wanted the slot, and just to try my best and see could I get there. So really, I was just hunting an age group placing 1 or 2. I never could have imagined in a million years that I would be breaking the tape and winning the overall female section. So I have worked extremely hard this year, and all year the main goal was Italy. So it was just magic.
And talk us through, in terms of, obviously you have the national series that keeps you kind of sharp in the short, sharp stuff. What way does your training vary when it comes to looking at the bigger races? Is there much of a change? Is it much of a task for you to change? Which do you prefer? Do you like the middle distance? Would you rather go longer?
I like the middle distance. I've targeted a lot of the shorter races this year because I'm really trying to focus on building speed and just learning as much as possible. Like for the shorter distances, it's an hour of racing, and really it comes down to a matter of seconds, and that's how slow you are to put on your shoe. I just find it so frustrating. You could put all this time into your 5 time better, and then somebody that just puts on their shoes quicker beats you. So it's just a crazy sport that you get into, and you just have to take as much as you can from it. So I just targeted a lot of the faster stuff this year to try and again build that speed coming into Italy. And I have done this year, so 3 half Ironman distances. One is Tyrone, then the second was Lost Sheep, and the third was Italy. So they were all just testing nutrition, making sure that the power was okay, and just testing everything to making sure I'm feeling ready for Italy. And all year it was just guns blazing for Italy. So just really happy to mark that off well.
And in fairness, if there's ever going to be a race that's going to test if you're ready for a race, it is the Lost Sheep in terms of preparation and toughness and mental grit and everything.
Yeah, but they're 2 completely different races. So I'm not built for hills. I love food. I love I'm not counting my calories, and they were just I hadn't really done a lot of hill training this year coming up into it because Italy is flat and fast, so it just wasn't the kind of race strategy that I was taking. So I got an overall podium. That was national championships for the middle distance this year, and just was a crazy field. So just to walk away with that 2 weeks before Italy was just a huge amount of confidence. So two completely different races, but just, yeah, both meant just as much in a different way, I guess.
We've had some good athletes on talking about their preparation for races. Sean has been with me at the start of an Ironman, and the spectacle it is. You were going there with a purpose. You were going there to modestly say, I hope to get an age group, but you're there to compete. Let's call it a spade. You weren't there just to take part. You were there with a mission. How does it feel when you get to the start line? Is it as emotional when there's, like, for me, it was like, I might not survive today. That was raw emotion that I don't know what's going to happen today, but but for you, it's like, right, this is it. Is it still as emotive for you at that start line when you're getting the national anthem plays, they're psyching you up, the music starts playing, it's like, okay, we're about to go. How does it feel with all that effort in? We've got 4.5, 5 hours to go. What's going through your head at the start line?
When you put so much time into training all year and just for one moment, one day, and it can all go wrong in a matter of minutes, whether you have an upset stomach, something gets food poisoning, just anything that you get. The week that coming into a race, you start to feel all these aches and pains, and you just start to second guess yourself. I get quite emotional at the best of times. I put a lot of pressure on myself. It's not from other people. But just again, when you put so much time, it feels a bit overwhelming. So that's the biggest thing, to try and keep the head. And that's why it's important to have people in your corner that know you and know what to say in those moments. And just, they're not trying to feed the nerves, but rather trying to uplift you and just keep you going. Again, you've done an Ironman, you know what it's like to feel that clap at the start when they all trying to rile up the crowd. They're playing all these crazy songs, and your heart is racing and you're just ready. I guess it was good to have the lost sheet 2 weeks before, because it kind of got out a bit of the nerves, or you kind of got to see that the fitness was there. You just needed to tweak it a little bit more. I'm here, I'm racing the best, and I am one of the best. And it's kind of weird to say, but so that gave me a bit of confidence coming into Italy. And again, I had the right people in my corner saying the right things, and I just felt ready.
At that start line, do you ground yourself then? Do you start thinking about those things to make yourself feel confident? Or do you, like, I would just get lost. I saw the videos you had up, like I start clapping with them, and I'd be listening to the Hans Zimmer, I'd be like buzzing and stuff. Next thing you know, I've got no energy to run to the start of the sea, and of course I'm drowned, and that's the end of me. Like, how do you?
Sean was nearly in the water with me.
I was like, I would love to do these. I didn't even say a word, and my fiance looks at me, she goes, don't even think about it. And she meant, don't even think about training and sign up for these things. And she could see the mind turn, like, maybe I could do this. So, like, how do you, does your mind try to go away from that feeling to kind of ground yourself and not get taken over in the moment? Because you're there to do a job, especially at that level.
Yeah, I think I just feed off that energy. Right. Like, leading into the race, I do feel I get really in my mind, and again, that's just when you need to kind of hone it back a little bit. But the moments, the half an hour leading into the race, I try and feel it and just let it boost me a little bit more. Like, I remember at the start line just waiting, and the announcer was getting the countdown for the pros, and you're just sitting there looking around. Everyone else, all the rest of the age groupers just look really nervous.
That's scary.
Like, what are we about to go into? Because it's going to be a very, very hard 4 to 5 hours of racing, and you just don't know what to expect. Anything can happen. So you just try and feed off it and just try and enjoy it. That's what you train for all year, and you're here doing it, and you're better than 99% of the population that are sitting there watching us. So we're just crazy grateful to be able to be at the start line at the end of the day.
When you hit that water, Aisling, and you're getting into your rhythm, I suppose, the first 100 meters is carnage, the heart rate's up, everything, there's kicks, there's slaps, there's everything going on. But eventually at some point in that 1.9K, you find your rhythm. Mm-hmm. How did it feel for you in that swim?
Oh, lovely. So the Italian water was very salty, and it was a very fast swim. God, when I had a quick look at the watch when I got out, and I saw 25 minutes, and I was like, So it was very fast. So yeah, it was just good. I put myself into a much better position. I have a habit of holding myself back and kind of getting caught, where I kind of went up with the fast swimmers and tried to get in with a pack, and that strategy thankfully worked out. So I kind of got out onto the bike. The transition was pretty long in Italy. It's just over 1 kilometer, so just trying to get out as quick as possible. I know, and it's not taking off the Ironman distance.
No, you're nearly into full Ironman now.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
when you get out, you see 25 minutes, you must be thinking, was that the salt or am I a machine? Either way, it doesn't matter. You've got confidence getting onto that bike. When you get on there, obviously we're in the middle distance now. You can take the extra 2 seconds, because taking the extra time is actually probably more beneficial to make sure you're properly ready, your things are fitting right, you're getting out on the bike. How is it on the course in terms of positioning? Because obviously, I don't know at what stage your group was led off or what way the course is. How do you balance that half Ironman course in terms of positioning and racing? Because you are racing, you're not just taking part, you're racing. How did you find that and keep that going for the 90 kilometers?
Looking to recover faster, train harder, and perform better?
And then what?
Perform Nutrition is one of Ireland's leading sports nutrition brands, with a number of great tasting protein powders, a range of vitamins, as well as other supplements such as creatine. All products are made in the GMP facility in the west of Ireland, and they have a range of batch tested and informed sports certified products. Perform is trusted by a number of Olympians, Hyrox champions such as Sean Noble, he was in the podcast.
Yeah, right, he was.
Also CrossFit Games athletes such as Emma McQuaid and many more. Perform's goal is to offer the highest quality, best tasting nutrition products for competitive prices, and now you can get an extra 25% off all products with the code AGR on their website, performnutrition.com.
25%! I'm typing it in now. And don't forget, we are supporting Irish companies. You are supporting this podcast by listening to this advert. So support Irish, get behind your podcast and get behind your local businesses. And until then, let's get back to the podcast.
It's almost like an Olympic distance at this rate, because you just have to be all out. You just have to just push everything out of you. Literally just push your mindset and just believe that you can hold it. It was, again, it's a very flat route. My parameter actually died 20 kilometers in, so I was kind of running.
No.
It's not what I trained for. I was listening to one of your podcasts where there was a guy, I can't remember his name, but he never runs with a watch. And that is the complete opposite to the way I train. I'm purely off data. I never go off feel, so that kind of threw me a bit. But again, I was actually out with a lead motorbike, so I knew I was doing well. Again, with the rolling start, I didn't know whether there was somebody that would be coming behind me that would be passing me at the end. But just feeding off that energy and just pushing. It was a good bike.
So obviously, in a way, could it be a blessing in disguise that the numbers disappeared on you and all you had was a motorbike on the road, that you just had to go, listen, I feel good, I'm still going? Because could the numbers have messed with you a little bit?
Absolutely. You could be holding yourself back 100%. It's just when you get in your head and you're like, oh, am I pushing too hard? Will I have it on the run? But again, absolutely, that's probably a huge credit to, I guess, if I saw my data and maybe saw what I was hitting, I would have been a little bit scared and held back a little bit. Maybe you don't know on the day. Yeah, could have been.
What's it like having a lead motorbike in front of you? Because me and Sean usually have the ambulance coming behind us, so it's quite an unusual experience to talk about the lead motorbike. What's that like?
Absolutely mad. Again, like when I was back in school running races, I was the person that they'd be picking up the cones then after. So I've been at the complete other end of the spectrum. So it's just, I can't even put it into words. It was just magic. Yeah, really.
And that bike brings you all the way in, I'm guessing, to transition. And then you've got other media teams with Ironman. And those who don't know, it's a spectacle. It is a World Cup final in terms of a media production. Mm-hmm. When you get off that bike, you know you're doing well, but again, there's some good cyclists, better runners. Would you back yourself on the run, or are you all swim, cycle, and hold on for dear life?
Hold on for dear life. And that was the motto of the day. It was then you get passed over to the lead bike woman that was leading it through. It's a 3-lap course, so the crowds were insane for Italy. It's definitely a venue that I'd recommend anybody do. It's just a great atmosphere. But again, when you have that crowd, I went out running. My target pace was 4:10. I went out sub 4-minute Ks and completely blew up, crawling my way home. So it was just hanging on for dear life. I didn't really know anybody out in the course. It was only on the last 2, because again, with the rolling start, like, you don't know, somebody could be coming behind you that had started 40 minutes back and could run 20 minutes faster than you. So I really didn't know I had it up until the last 2K, where I saw somebody I knew, and I asked him, when you see me next, will you just give me your time split in terms of when the next person was? And he said that I had over 5 minutes, and I just started to burst into tears.
Wow.
Crazy
Yes.
And that was the only time throughout the race that I really knew that I was, so it was just a super emotional day. Again, I'm an emotional person, but when you put so much time into something and all you wanted was that age group slot, I could have just never made it up. So yeah, just great.
Is it daunting as well, not to drag this story out, but when you pass that finish line and you have to go back out the course, you go the first time, you're like, is there anyone coming behind me? Is there anyone coming behind me? I'm feeling pretty tired. I have another 2 laps to go. You turn for the second time and you're hurting at this point. You're heading out for your last lap, and that's probably when you were feeling it the most. What goes through your head at that time about, are you thinking about, did I fuel right? Or you think about anything else? How do you motivate yourself to just hang on and keep those 4-minute Ks?
There was no 4-minute Ks happening.
5-minute Ks, 6-minute Ks.
I think it averaged out at 4:15, but towards the back half it was 4:40s, just hanging. But no, it was just one foot in front of the other. Again, it's just, you go into this fight or flight response and you just go into yourself. I wasn't acknowledging anybody. I wasn't giving high fives out there. I was just in a dark place going, you can do this, and just fighting. I have this huge thing that I just want to make sure, no matter what race, I don't want to feel, there's nothing like it when you get 10 minutes or even a day after the race and you're going, wonder what if I did this, or wonder what if I did that. So it's just making sure that you've given it your all, and that's what I try and think about.
Just for a bit of context for people listening, at the end of that cycle, you had done 90K in 2 hours, 25 minutes, averaging 37 kilometers an hour. I'm not too sure I hit 37 kilometers an hour going down the hills in Kerry doing the Ring of Kerry cycle. That is insane to actually do that and then do an hour 30, doing a half marathon there at the end, averaging a 4:15 pace. No question, just wanted the people to know that you're doing averaging 37 kilometer on a bike and then trying to do a half marathon after that. Absolutely phenomenal. I don't know how your quads were not burning and stuff afterwards. When you know finish,
what? Maybe it is better to have a 10 grand bike than a 5 grand car. I'm going out. I've sat in a few traffic jams at 37 kilometers an hour.
I don't think you can get 37 kilometers an hour in a 5 grand car these days. It's costing a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah. She'd be locked up in the 30 kilometer an hour zone in Dublin now. That's it. Aisling, when you come off a race like that, and when we've had a lot of fantastic athletes on this podcast, and they're always super critical. You said you're your biggest critic. Did you enjoy winning?
Oh, I enjoyed winning.
Brilliant.
And did you enjoy it for a couple of days?
Yeah, no, I in fairness, everybody, particularly from the club, I've just had this outpour of love and support from people that you'd never think have anything to do with triathlon or know what a triathlon is. It's just been a great buzz. And immediately after the race, you kind of feel a bit of a come down, but I think that's after any big goal that somebody, and then you're like, oh, what now? And maybe that explains the Instagram stories of the Everest and the Hyrox and the marathon, but just, I don't have enough. But my friend actually joked with me that I need to pick up knitting over the winter or something just to calm down.
Bit of crochet to just knit your next tri-suit to make it harder. But it is a phenomenal achievement, and I do ask that because so many people come on and say, look, I ran the record for this and I did that, and straight away I was thinking, if only I'd ran 1 second faster, if only I'd done this. Obviously, it's nice for you to get the medal, to get the age group, to get the party, to get the presentation, to get everything, and you're in Italy. So it's a pretty good place to be successful. Let's be honest. When the work is done, you've got pasta, pizza, and prosecco, and Aperol spritz to bait the band. Is that what is attractive? Obviously, as a top performer, but of these destination Ironman, is this what makes it more attractive? That when you finish that big goal, you're in a place where you're surrounded by club mates. A couple of club mates do it, but you're in a place where you can enjoy the afters.
I actually went over with my mum and she did the same event. So it kind of full 360. So she was there to share it. She shared the course with me and she shared obviously the achievement with me as well. So that was pretty special. Not many people can say that, which is really cool. So yeah, I think there's a lot to be said. Like obviously it's a huge investment in time and money to be going abroad racing. And if something was to happen when you're over there, or if the race didn't go to plan, you do start to wonder what if. And there always is in every single race, no matter what the achievement. Everybody will always have something to say in terms of, like, for example, I could have ran a hell of a lot better if I just kept the head, maybe focus a little bit more on nutrition. Like there's always a million things you can overanalyze. At the end of the day, I got the win. It's something that I could have never dreamed of. And sometimes you just need to reflect and appreciate that when things go right, just own it and just enjoy it. There's always going to be, there's going to be a million bad days ahead, but there'll hopefully be those good days as well where you can just appreciate it. And it's important to do that as well, I think.
I brought my mum to the Ironman, and afterwards she said, "Never do that again." So that just shows the difference in our parents, I suppose. But I think my mum felt every one of those 12 and something 13 hours. So yeah,
I can verify that.
the only thing we're learning is she's not coming to the next one.
It's way harder to support. Like honestly, she should just do it. It's way harder.
I don't know about that, but it is harder. And more importantly, it is infectious. And those who are going to listen to you, and we'll talk about maybe your plans for the new year and obviously the World Championship qualifications, I believe it was summer of next year. What is it like for people who are watching? They're going to listen to you and they're going to go, how do I go from finding a bike today to being in the World Championships in 5 years' time? Because that's the timeline you've given them. So what do you say to people who are kind of listening, who are hearing us talking about marathons, Ironman, base camp, Hyrox, whatever else you're doing next week? What do you say for those who are looking to make that dive into it?
I would say it doesn't matter what distance or what goals you have once you kind of enjoy it. And I think that's clear with me, that I just absolutely love it. And that's why I put so much time and work into it. And it's, again, about finding the right people that can support your journey, no matter whether you're plan on racing an hour or up to 10 hours like yourself or more. God, that would be very good Ironman. But it's just, again, joining a club, finding your tribe, as I like to say. Like I've met some of my best friends in adulthood, which kind of isn't the easiest thing to do, to meet friends when you're a little bit older. When you have something more than just wanting to go to the pubs at the weekend. You kind of want to be outside, and that's a great way to kind of meet people and just enjoy it. And that's the most important thing, no matter what you plan on doing or what goals you have for the coming year. It's just get yourself out there and give it a go and see does it align with your kind of lifestyle. Like I've mentioned that I don't have kids, so it does take a lot of time if you want to go for that World Championship slot. I'm not trying to mislead you. We all have the same 24 hours a day, but mine, again, I obviously work full time, but it does take a lot of time. I'm training morning and evenings most days, and then the weekends. But again, I absolutely love it, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But if you can kind of join a club and just dip your toe in, I guess.
At that level, is there such thing as a rest day?
I don't know. Is there? Not for me.
Yeah, Sean,
I had a feeling just so you're talking there. It's like,
it's her day off next week. She's going doing Hyrox.
Oh no, it is important to have balance. You know, obviously coming into big races, there's there's less balance and more dedication. But no, I'm at the end of the day, I have to realize that it's just a hobby. I have a life outside of it. I have a career outside of it. So there is absolutely, you just need to just check your priorities. I guess see what stage of the year it is.
Barry's sitting down now. He's heard all the things you're going to do, Kilimanjaro by January and everything else. What is the plan now? Is it to recover? Is it to set yourself up now again, start building in November for December, the winter miles for the summer smiles, all the rhetoric that triathlon is to just kind of break it back down. What is the plan for you for the next 6 to 8 months that's going to get you World Championship ready without giving away Barry's secrets?
No, yeah.
Give us them all. Give us them all, quick.
No, I really need to improve in the run, so that's why I kind of signed up for Valencia Marathon. The goal would be sub 3:10, just to try and force myself outside. It's nothing worse when it's cold, wet, and windy and dark. So just to keep me. I know everybody after it's great running around the local town now because everybody's out training for the marathon now, and it'll just be myself and a couple of people training for Valencia. So if anybody wants to come join. But the next 6 months, I guess, I might target a couple of the duathlons early next year. So that's a mixture of running and cycling. And they don't put us into the open water up until around May time. So that'll keep me ticking over. It's going to be a long year. The World Champs actually aren't until November. So it is a long...
It's late, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I have lots of time to improve my weaknesses between then and now. So...
Very good. It's phenomenal. We are very excited to see what next year brings. No pressure, but World Championship podium would be pretty good for the podcast. But very selfishly, we got there first, right? So when RTE come knocking, we were there first. No, but it's absolutely brilliant, Aisling, what you're doing and what you're doing for the sport. Again, have you any last minute tips for anyone who's looking to take on the triathlon, who's looking to go to the local club, or who's looking to get coaching? Do you recommend linking in with a coach even to give you the basic structures?
Absolutely. I have come on leaps and bounds, and that is purely as a result of having a specific tailored plan. There's nothing like it. I know there's a lot to be said for meeting your friends that are at similar levels, and you can definitely make huge improvements by training with others. And that would be number one, I guess, if you can. I know a lot of people can't afford coaching. The club, again, is a useful way. There generally are plans out there that are tailored depending on what distances you like, but to have a specific tailored plan for you, particularly if you have a busy job or family, making sure that the hours that you do have are tailored and intentional, I guess. I don't think there's anything like it, and I wouldn't be where I am with my achievements this year if it wasn't for that. And there's a lot to be said for talent, but I think that's what happens when you rock up to triathlons and you're surrounded by people. You know that everybody there on the start line has put in the time and the work. There's 3 sports to train for. And when you do have a life outside of sport and you're not just a full-time athlete, you want to make sure that the time that you have is allocated properly, I guess, and you again have intention.
Good luck at the wall balls. They're torture.
John is so lost. That's all that's been in his brain for the last hour.
You're looking at here's where I'm completely lost, and hopefully other people are. I'm looking at your numbers for 25 minutes swim and 225 bike and 130 run, and you're talking about trying to find weaknesses towards next year. I don't know. Looking at that when that is the top of the top, obviously, in Ironman Italy. How far that is or isn't away from World Championship and trying to poke holes of weaknesses. And obviously, you say it's running going Valencia. It's just, I'm completely out of the loop in that, but I just know wall balls are tough. That's all.
Aisling, it's like he didn't listen. That's when you blame. That's when you blame the equipment, Sean. We're gonna get Aisling on a 15 grand bike. Anyone looking to sponsor Aisling with a 15 grand bike? Please reach out. Her car is now worth 3 grand. So but it is going to be tough to find those margins, but we no doubt you will with a great team, great club, and a great representative of Irish triathlon. And you are representing Ireland when you go out there. But well done, Aisling. It's been absolutely brilliant having you on the podcast. We wish you the very best over the winter season. Pity you didn't run Barcelona with us. Valencia sounds average at best, but it's something we'll look for in future podcast marathon trips. We look forward to seeing you and seeing your progress, and we wish you well over the winter season.
Oh, thank you very much for having me on.
That's it for this week's episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Myself, Aisling, and Eric. Take care.